Okay, I just finished the book MindShift by Erwin McManus. And one thing I do when I read is it's part of my morning routine, so I read every day now. And when I'm done reading, I usually read for about like 10 to 20 minutes, probably, read a chapter or like whatever. And then I go on my iPad and I have like a section for the book I'm reading. And I write down what was meaningful to me or stuck out. And I'll put notes in my Kindle too, but I just make notes each chapter as I go through the book so that one, it helps me like retain it, I feel like, because otherwise sometimes it just goes in one ear and out the other. Helps me retain it and kind of like meditate on whatever was impactful to me or felt like it stuck out. And then two, I can go back and look at it. So, anyways, I had this idea of when I finish a book and I have the notes, just doing a quick video and just walking through it, and I'm sharing what I thought was meaningful and for me and for you. Um, so I'm just gonna get into it, but let me go ahead and go Zen mode here. Banana. Anyways, this was an interesting one because I've talked about it before, but I really liked it. Like from the get-go, the subtitle is "You don't have to be a genius to think like one," and the whole premise of the book is like mindset tips to be successful and have a good life, and it's very positive, all about thinking positively and what to focus on, and it's really was right in my wheelhouse basically of like my brand and what I want to do with my life and my business. So everything sounded really good. The one caveat I will say before we start is that I did get a red flag or like a feeling about this dude, because I watched some interviews of him and he has all these crazy stories in the book, and I just get this feeling like it's maybe not fully true or it's a little embellished or something. And maybe it's just because it's extraordinary. I wouldn't be like, this dude's a freaking liar. But when I get a gut feeling like that, sometimes I'm like, I don't necessarily want to just brush it off or ignore it. And I do feel like some of the stuff he said, some of the way his stories and the way he framed stuff, I was like, just feeling a little skeptical. So I just wanted to share that, take it with a grain of salt. But as far as these notes go, I'll just show you kind of real quick what it looks like. And they're just broken out by chapter. And a lot of times the notes are just the chapter title, like if that's like what was impactful to me. And then sometimes I put my own thoughts, but I'll just get into it and let's just walk through. The first thing, it's all about people, which I know this, and it's something it's easy to forget for me because I spend so much time alone. But everything is like, it's like the thing in I Am Legend where it's like, if there's no other people, what's the freaking point of anything? Like, really, you know? And so everything comes down to who you know. Everything you do is for people. And it's easy to forget that for me. And I think that's really important, to focus on people and prioritize people, whether that's, you know, in what you want to get or what you want to give. That's ultimately what it's all about, especially for me as an artist, because I'm like, dude, it's like, if there's no one to listen to what I do or no one to watch this, what the hell? So that's the point. I like this other thought. You can measure success by how many people you elevate. I love that. I literally already forgot about that till now. That's so good. Not money, not if you reach your goals or whatever, how many people you elevate and you make their life better, or you help them reach their goals. That's a sick measure of success, and I love that. So good. Next one, fame is what you are known for. Greatness is what you are. So that's a different one. Aim to be great rather than, which is character development. At the end of the day, a lot of this stuff comes back to character development, which is the most difficult because you can get famous easier, I think, than you can develop genuinely good character. The path to greatness is walked alone, in parentheses, in ways. I think that his point here is that a lot of times as you're developing character and as you're developing yourself and working on whatever you think is your path or your goals or your dream, people will not understand and people will judge you, and a lot of people will think, oh, that's cool. It's especially as an artist, people are like, you still doing the music thing? Like, that's fun, like, or whatever, you know. And it's not like that's mean or anything, but it's like I think a lot of people in their head judge. You have to see the vision. You can't rely on anyone to take you. You can't rely on anyone to see it for you. You have to see it and walk it and know that you're going to probably be alone in that a lot of times, which I have found to be very true. Um, this is cool. Develop yourself, not people's perception of you, which is also a good one. And like I said, a lot of this just comes back to character development and knowing who you are, caring about who you are, investing in yourself and your virtue. The next thing is you can't take everyone with you. That one, don't really care about that. There's something there, but I'm not going to try to find it right now. Oh, this is cool. People who will really stay with you for the long haul don't need to say it, or won't probably say it, which is interesting because he was explaining how people who say, "Oh, I'll always be here," it's like ride or die or whatever, they often leave. And then it's the people that have just been there and continue to be there and they don't need to say it and they don't need to whatever, they just have the commitment, which is cool. That's more from a business perspective where you're having a company or a business or a big group of people. For me, it doesn't necessarily hit that at home because I'm by myself. But anyways, you you can't I put you can't coerce people to stay with you. Paint a picture of the future that seems impossible but compels you to try and create it. And then hopefully people will follow along, which honestly also rings true for me because even though I have this weird dichotomy where I totally believe in myself and my ability to achieve my goals, and on the other hand, it seems like it'll never happen and it's like a pipe dream. And so it's this weird thing where I just am going for it anyways. I don't care, just to the moon or bust, but it's interesting. The next one, you got to eat the mushrooms first and be the one to take the risk. Slurp. That's an interesting one because he said he watched a business guy give advice of like, let someone else eat the mushrooms first, which is like a metaphor for try something crazy or new. And then if they fail, you didn't suffer the failure, but if they succeed, now you know you can do that. And it's like a metaphor for people foraging for mushrooms. And, you let other dude eat the new mushroom first because if he dies, whatever. His idea is that if you have a truly, if you know your path or you have a goal or a way you envision the future and you're going for it, a lot of times you are eating the mushrooms first and you just got to be okay with getting sick or failing or crashing and burning, and that's what happens. And if you're an innovator and if you're a, what do you call it, maybe a maverick or something, you just go first and you rip it. Inevitably people will not understand what you're doing. It's about creating a future that people need the most, which I like that idea too, because for me in my perspective, like to simplify it with as far as my goals and my dream and the way I see it is like you got just like simply a lot of 9 to 5ers that would love to be doing something else and probably could be doing something else, but they're conditioned to believing that their life is just going to be this normal, mundane, work to survive life. And some people just do that and have a family and that's the dream for them and they're happy. But I think a ton of people have like a dream in there that they're scared and don't feel like it's possible for them to do it. And a lot of this book is about that is just in your head, and it's not like it's easy, it's not like you can't fail or anything, but there's way more room than I think a lot of people realize, which is my whole motto, life can be more of what you dream. And so for me, I think as far as when I see that it's about creating a future people need most, I think about creating a future that helps people realize that life can be more of what they dream and they are not stuck where they are, and like a little bit of a wake up, like you can freaking go for it. So that's that one. I love it. And don't wait for the applause, I guess. I don't know what he was saying with that one. Don't wait for the applause. I don't know exactly what that would mean. That's a miss. Anyways, okay. Oh, this is cool. This is about ceilings and limits. So he says you define your own ceiling. And I think so many people think there just is a limit to what they can do or where they can go that's like self-imposed, or just like they assumed it and then just never questioned it again. And it's maybe not so accurate. Um, because like with this guy, one of the reasons why I was so skeptical of him is like all the stuff he's achieved that he talks about. And I'm like, how can you achieve that much shit? Like, how can you be that successful? How can you do so much and find so much success and go so far and reach so many people? Like, that's insane. And I recognize that as probably my unconscious bias in the ceiling I've set for myself, where I'm like, that is an unattainable level of success in my head, but it's obviously not, because people, they're insanely successful people, and a lot of times it's because they don't have the brakes on their head, they don't have that ceiling that a society, I feel like a lot of society imposes on you, like just be normal, you gotta just be a person, normal person. um and he kind of talks about redefining a ceiling as just a stepping stone of your success, just a level for you to surpass. When you have a ceiling, when you identify what you think your ceiling is, that's just a stepping stone. I love that mindset. That's awesome. um Oftentimes ceilings and limits are just created and maintained by your mind, which I've kind of just touched on, but it's like I always go back to the elephant metaphor. When there's like a young elephant, they tie it to a tree so it can't get away. And then when it's old, they can just tie it to a stake in the ground and it won't try to get away because it just thinks if it's tied up, it can't go. And again, I don't know how true that is, but I feel like with humans, it is true. And a lot of people are like that, where you just have your limits are conscious limits. They're just in your head and in your mind. Um, and sometimes like you maybe think you have a limit and you try to surpass it and boom, you're like, oh, I can't, that was a limit. But a lot of times you gotta try something else and you gotta figure it out, and you can solve problems, you can make it. It's just, like I said, not easy. Sometimes it takes perseverance and being clever and asking for help and different things, but you could do it. um, this is a banger. This is probably one of my favorite ones. If you live long enough, your hard work will be mistaken for talent and your resilience will be mistaken for genius. And this is kind of his premise of the book, where you don't have to be a genius to think like one. And a lot of times people think you're really talented when you just rip it hard. You're just going for it. And in the music space, you see this a lot, where most of the most talented people are not that successful. And then you have a lot of people who just, I always use I always think of this thing where, you'll see these amazing musicians and songwriters that write these amazing songs, and you just listen to it and you go, this is so top tier, it's insane. And it's got like 100,000 streams, and you're like, what is that? And then you'll hear some rapper, which is literally just a kid who's like drunk and on drugs and has a cool vibe and has a flow and gets on a mic and just thinks he's the shit and goes. And then next thing you know, it's like a top level artist, because they just go for it and they don't have the brakes on their head and they just think they're dope. And I'm not saying they're not dope, but they're not as talented or set up as some of these other songwriters and musicians and creators that are absolutely incredible and amazing. It's just when you see that, I feel like it just illustrates that, where you know you don't have to be a genius and you don't necessarily have to be talented. You just have to send it, right? um, and it helps to be a genius and talented, for sure. And then the other thing here is character over talent, which is, again, like I said, it's a lot about character development, being a good person, being honest, having integrity, being kind, being thoughtful. All these things, developing these things, are more important than just being good at doing something. We all know people who are just very talented and very good at something, but just absolutely a shitty person and have no discipline, no self-control. They lie, they cheat and steal, and their life becomes a wreck. That's common. Um, this is a cool one. Don't wait until you're ready to start. Just dive right in. I find this to be true so often. It's so easy to be like, oh, when I know this, or when I get this good at this, I'll do that, or I'll start this once I have this. But I find that with myself and a lot of other people I've seen, there's this amazing ability humans have to figure things out when they're in the thick of it. So like from the outside of an endeavor, you're not going to figure it out, or it's going to take you way longer, where if you just dive in and start breaking stuff and twisting stuff and trying to figure it out, that's how our brains are meant to problem solve and meant to figure things out. And I see so often that a lot of times people are successful because they just dive in, make a million mistakes right immediately, and figure it out. And I think that's a good way to think about new endeavors and things that you want to try. This one I didn't resonate with. It's forgiveness is an art form. It's all about forgiveness and being bitter and stuff like that. I've never really been that way. I just don't hold a grudge. I see people kind of for who they are, and I'm also lucky to not have really been wronged that much in my life. But at the end of the day, I for some reason could just let things go, and I don't really hold grudges. But the other point he had in here is that bitterness is a poison that numbs you before it kills you. And I like that because not it could be bitterness towards a person, but bitterness maybe towards just a situation or a circumstance or something. And it does kind of make you complacent and gives you this kind of weird numbness that I can see being very dangerous for your just for your mindset and well-being and your relationships and stuff. So I think that's a cool point and I agree with it. Um excuse me. Okay. We do not see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. I like this too. Your beliefs and your worldview shapes your reality so much. And I see this a lot of times with people where I do this. I think everyone does this to a certain extent, but the way you are and the things you like and the things you care about, we kind of mirror that onto other people. And it's funny, but I see this so often on dating apps where because I'm a lonely bachelor, I'm on Tinder and Hinge and all that, and I'm looking at these profiles and trying to meet someone. And I see these girls sometimes that, if you think of the standard man um, profile that is attractive on Tinder or Hinge, they've done all these studies, right? Of like, what is his pictures like? What is this man like? What is your kind of alpha male, like top tier 1% that's getting all the swipes? And it's generally someone who looks nice, but is very successful, very disciplined, very fun, and maybe adventurous, and whatever. It's hard to exactly explain, but it's kind of your if you watch the Tinder Swindler on Netflix, that's a perfect example of it. Just someone who's got it together, seems nice, but seems maybe a little scary or a little um, up there, and that's kind of what mainly women are swiping on. What's funny is that I'll see women's profiles that are exactly like that, but it's a girl. And what I think is that they make their profile into something that is what they want to see in someone else. So they think because, oh, this is what I'm looking for, this is what's desirable, so I'm going to make my profile like that. That's a good example of what I'm talking about, where people, for example, a great example with me is with gifts. I hate gifts. I don't like giving gifts. I don't like getting gifts. Most people would give me a gift and they think I'm going to love it because they love it. They think of how they feel when they get a gift. So they say, oh, this person's going to feel like that. So give him a gift. He'll feel like that. I feel like humans just do that across the board with everything. And, it's like for example, if you're religious and you think God is like working in the world, right? There's everything that happens. You're going to think God's plan, God did that. God put this person here. God did this to test me, whatever. Right, your worldview, your reality is a reflection. And if you're Christian or basic Christian or whatever, you can think of it in terms of someone who believes in karma, or who is Buddhist or believes in karma. Like, they're going to see everything is what they put into the world coming back to them, right? And so just however you view things is how your reality is going to be, which is a massive tool and advantage if you know that, but can also be really detrimental if you're not aware of that. So I think that's a cool one. Sure had a lot to say about that. And then, I love this too. Change yourself, not the world. This is good because I think I talked about this on a podcast I was on recently, but so often we look out at the world and we say, this is wrong, that's wrong, this should be like this isn't cool, this should be this way, people need to be this way, if only it was this way, etc. And you're just looking out, judging everything, saying how it could be. And that's fine and good. It's not like there's never a place for that. But what I would say is that if you want leverage, being the change you want to see in the world is the best bang for buck you're generally going to get, is developing your character and being a person that is resilient and powerful and successful. And if you can develop legitimate character and virtue that is like rock solid, your ability to change all those things that you're looking out that you see you want to change and that you don't like goes up 1,000-fold. But you're never going to develop that character if you're just judging everyone else and everything else all the time. So a lot of times the way to make change out there is by making change in here, which is a massive insight and a banger. I think getting a little bit of goosebumps from that. That's a banger. Um, I have be average at everything except one thing, which is just kind of like the advice of niching down and focusing on one thing with all your attention and really going one path. I'm not sold on that. I think that's good advice for most people. But for me, I don't know, because like for me, I sometimes try to cheat it where I'm like, okay, I do music, I do YouTube, I do my blog, and I do my store and all this. And I'm like, should I just do one of those things? Or is Danny Suede who I am and all those facets of it, is that can that count as one thing that I'm focusing on, being myself in the world as best as I can be and showing up and being creative however I want? Can that be the one thing I focus on that I'm extraordinary at? I like to think yes, and that's kind of how I view it. Maybe that's a cheat, I'm not sure, but we'll see. uh, Next, I have saying yes is easy, saying no is difficult, which is like saying yes to opportunities and things you want to do and things you care about, and saying no, like I want to do this thing or I care about this thing, but I'm gonna not, and I'm gonna just focus on this instead. That's the example, which I agree that's hard. Um, hmm. This says success. Oh, this success weighs more than failure. This is funny because a lot of people think failing is so hard and it hurts and it's discouraging, etc., etc. But he's talking about how once you get successful and you have a high level of success, that the weight of that on your psyche is a lot harder to bear than the weight of failing and failure, which I hadn't thought of that before. And good problem to have though. I'll take that problem when I have it. Like I've been dealing with failure just fine, so we'll see how success weighs. Measure your wealth by what you give away rather than what you have. I like that. It's kind of like the first thing, which is measure your success by how many people you elevate. I love that idea of like how rich are you is like how much money you give away and you help people with. Like that is a really cool way to think about wealth. I think as I attain more money and stuff like that, I like to think about that, and it's inspiring for me to be more philanthropic and caring and sharing to other people. Oh, invest in your character equal to or more than your bank account. Again, back to the character thing. It's really everything. I just think it's so easy to overlook who you are and the qualities you have and the strengths you have and what kind of person you are and how are you really proud of yourself? Are you really showing up as your best self? Because that is the really hard work, and it's really hard to look at, and it's uncomfortable to look at a lot of times. So much easier to look at a bank account or to look at a um, follower count or to look at what other people are doing in the world or how the world should be. Invest in your character the most. I love it. Okay, got it. Two left. Integrity is integration with yourself. I love that. The idea of integrity, having integrity. I have like a floating concept of what it is in my head, but defining it by integration with yourself being that you are the same in every room. Everywhere you go, you show up the same, you be the same person, you have the same values everywhere you go, and you're consistent. That's a cool way to think of it, and I like that. And consistent with your values. Um, in the context of good character, so if you have good character, there's no such thing as too much ambition. He talks about how a lot of times ambition is maybe frowned upon, or maybe, people, they think you can be too ambitious, or it's bad, or it's, what do you say? I don't know. It's just not necessarily encouraged, and it's not necessarily viewed in our zeitgeist as a good thing. But he's like, in the context, if you have good character and good values, there's no such thing as too much ambition. Shoot for the freaking moon and the stars and beyond, and that is a good thing, and that should be encouraged, and that should be welcome. So that's all my notes. That was a lot, and I actually really enjoyed walking through all that. I think it's really good for me. I will be curious to kind of watch back through this and kind of see, because I know I gained more insights walking through this than I might have otherwise. Let me know what you think. Hopefully you got something out of it as well. I'm probably going to do this every time I read a book. I'm thinking I'm going to read a marketing book by Seth Godin next. Not sure though. Give me a recommendation. Excuse me. Before I end, I'll let you know about all the things I do, which is my 4 things. That's 8. 4 things. My music, my blog, my YouTube, which is this if you're watching, and my store, which I have Danny Suede merch. I got necklaces, earrings, hats, hoodies, everything. So that's everything I do. If you just go to DannySuede.com, everything's on there, really easy to find and really clear, hopefully. And remember that life can be more of what you dream, and don't do question your ceiling and the limits you put on yourself and what your life could be, because I have found, and I'm finding more and more every day, that it can be way more amazing than you thought if you just expand your mind and dream a little bit. So that's what it is. Thanks for watching, and sign up to my blog. It's free. You just go to dannyswade.com. It's right there, and you put in your email, and you get my updates every week because I'm retired from social media. So if you want to follow up to date with my videos and my new music and what I'm writing and thinking about and everything like that, that's the place to go. dannyswade.com or dannyswade.substack.com, and just put in your email, and it's free. And that's what it is. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.